This is the CLO4 unit review all about interest. Okay, before we get into examples, I just want to remind everyone there are two kinds of interest problems. Simple interest is when we use these equations, and then compound interest is when we use these more complicated equations, and you will know which one. If it says the word compound, you must use these equations. If it does not say the word compound, then you can use the simple equations. The I always stands for the interest earned. R stands for the rate, the percentage. T is always the time in years. So be careful. If they give you an amount of time in months, you have to divide by 12. If they give you a time in weeks, you have to divide by 52. And if they give you a time in days, you have to divide by 365. So in addition, I want to talk about the difference between the letter P and the letter S. When you read a banking question, there's going to be lots of different vocab they will use to describe P and S. They will use P for principal. It means the starting amount, the amount that you initially put in the bank, or the amount that you initially borrow. The S has a lot of different names, but it's really the maturity value. After you take your money back out of the bank or after you pay back what you borrowed, that is the maturity value. So there's a lot of other words we use to describe P and S, and I will list those here. So the P is the amount borrowed or the amount deposited or the amount invested. It's the starting amount. And the S is the amount withdrawn at the end when you take it out, or the amount repaid at the end. Just remember that P is always less than S. A few more words they'll use. P is the present value and S is the future value. Sometimes they'll call the future value the accumulated value or even the compound amount when we're dealing with compound questions. So the main thing to remember is P comes first. It's what you deposit or what you borrow, and then what it grows to at the end is called S. Okay, let's look at this first problem. It says an amount of $11,400 is borrowed from a bank. That's our starting amount, P. The loan was for 7 months. That's a time, but remember we can't say T equals 7. That would mean 7 years. So to make 7 months be in the form of years, we should say 7 divided by 12. And the interest rate is 5%, 0.05. It says per annum. That just means per year. How much interest should be paid to the bank at the end of this term? Well, I see no mention of the word compound, so I will use my basic simple interest equation, I equals PRT, and then I will plug and chug 11,400 times 5% per year, and 7/12. 7 months is 7/12 of a year, so we get that the interest paid will be, now my calculator says 332.5, but since we're dealing with money, we always write 2 decimal places, so 332.50 dirhams. So I borrowed 11,400, and when I pay back the money, I have to pay back the 11,400 and 332.50 dirhams in interest. Okay, let's look at this next question. An amount of 20,000 is deposited. So again, that's the P, that's the starting amount, 20,000, into a savings account for 70 weeks. That's a time, but I can't just say 70 because that would mean 70 years. So to change it into years, 70 divided by 52 weeks in a year. The simple interest rate, R, is 0.037 per annum, means per year. And again, they're asking about how much interest did our money earn. So we use the same basic simple equation. We did not see them mention the word compound here, so we just use the equation for simple interest, I equals PRT. We plug and chug 20,000 times 0.037. And time is 70 out of 52. 70 out of 52 weeks in a year. And we will get a final answer for interest of 996. Now my calculator says 0.153. So to 2 decimal places, that rounds to 996.15 dirhams in interest that I earned. All right, let's look at this question. It says on May 9th, we borrowed 137,000. That's our starting amount, 137,000 dirhams. Simple interest rate is 5%, 0.05. Interest and money owed are due to be paid on August 3rd. So this is a little bit more complicated because they're giving us 2 dates, May 9th until August 3rd. Whenever I see dates, I want to pull up the Julian calendar. So let's find May 9th on the Julian calendar. May 9th is day 129 in the year, and August 3rd is day number 215 of the year. So we want to know how many days total that is. Let's subtract 215 minus 129. We get 86 days. So our time, we can't say 86, that would mean 86 years. So I say 86 out of 365 days in a year. All right, assuming that interest is calculated using the exact method so that's 365 days in a year, how much interest do I have to pay? So again, it's simple interest. We will use our interest equation for simple interest, I equals PRT. We will plug and chug 137,000 times 5% times 86 over 365, and we will get that the interest that we have to pay is 1613.97 dirhams. Okay, let's look at the next one. We invest this amount, so that's the starting amount, 11,245. It earned interest. When you see this word earned, you label that next amount of money as I. It earned interest of 126.66, and then it says it was 4 years. Time equals 4 years, so we just leave T equals 4 because it's already in years. What is the future value of your money? Okay, be careful here. It didn't give us the interest rate. So we'll actually use the equation, the simple interest equation, that the future value just equals the present value plus the interest earned. Okay, so the starting amount that we put in the bank was 11,245. Then it earned 126.66. So we will get a future value of 11,371.66 dirhams. So in this case, it didn't matter that it was for 4 years. We had all the information we needed with the present value and the interest earned to get the future value of our money. Okay, let's read the next question. And we see find the number of months. So that's a time. We're looking to find a time. The deposit, so that's our P, that's our starting value. P is 13,200. It earns, so we label that as I. It earns interest of 317, and the rate, the percentage, is 0.1075. That's the interest rate, 10.75%. Now, whenever you are given the interest and you need to find the principal or the rate or the time that's missing, you write I equals PRT in this way, and we're trying to find T. So we can use this equation that T equals I over PR. So let's plug in 317 divided by 13,200 times 0.1075, and we'll get a time of 0.223 years. But the problem, remember, they did not ask for years, they asked for months. So what we will do is we'll multiply by the fact that there are 12 months for every year, in which case, when we multiply that, we will get that the time in months is 2.68 months. But it says, well, we should probably just round to the nearest whole number of months, which will be 3 months, which is one of the choices. So time is about 3 months. Okay, let's look at this next question. Find the principal. So we don't know the P. That will earn $2,500. You always earn interest, so that tells us I equals $2,500. The rate is 10%, 0.10, and the time is 300 days. Remember, we can't just write 300, that would mean 300 years, so we do 300 divide 365. Now, whenever you are given the interest and you're missing either P or I or T, we create this triangle. And since we are missing P, we know that the equation for P will be I divided by RT. And we can just plug and chug the values. 2,500 divided by 0.10 times 300 over 365. And that will give you the initial principal of 30,416. If I'm going to round to 2 decimal places, I will say 0.67 dirhams. All right, let's look at the next question. At what rate? So we're missing the R. The principal is 158,000, and it's going to earn interest. So the I is 2750. And the time is 15 months. So again, there are 12 months in a year, so we say time is 15 over 12. Whenever you are given the I, but you're missing P or R or T, you can set up this triangle, and then we know the formula to find R is the formula that R equals I divided by PT. We plug in what we're given, 158,000. Divided, wrong. I is 2750 divided by P, 158,000 times T, which is 15 over 12. And when we plug all that in, we get that the rate is 0.0139. And if you notice, the choices here have a percent sign next to them. So anytime you want to turn a decimal into a percent, you multiply by 100%. So that goes this way, 2 decimal places. So the R is 1.39%, which is this choice. Okay, let's look at the next question. Find the accumulated value, so that's the future value, when investing 7,000. P equals 7,000, that's our starting amount. The rate is 3.2%, 0.032. This is the first time I'm seeing the word compounded. So when you see the word compounded, we instantly know we can't use the easy, simple equations. We need to use this more complicated compound equation. We have this one, and then we have the fact that the interest earned is S minus P. Now you'll notice in these equations, there is a new letter M. M is the number of times that the money is compounded, that the interest is taken and put back on the principal to calculate the next interest payment. So let me just remind you how to figure out what M is. So here are the different ways that banks can compound the money. They can compound annually. That means M equals 1. 1 time per year, the interest is put back on the principal to calculate the next interest payment. If they say semi-annually, that means twice a year, M equals 2. If they say quarterly, that means 4 times a year, M equals 4. Monthly is 12 times a year, M equals 12. Daily means every day, so M equals 365. So let's keep reading. It said compounded monthly. That means in this case, M equals 12 and time equals 4 years. So we will use this more complicated compound equation, 1 plus r over m raised to the power mt. We will plug in our values, 7,000, 1 plus 0.032 divided by 12 raised to the power 12 times 4, and we get an accumulated value or a future value of 7,954. Now my calculator says 0.515, but we round to 2 decimal places, so we say 0.52 dirhams. Okay, let's look at the next question. How much interest? So we want to know I. We're borrowing 13,900. The rate is 0.0713. And it's compounded semi-annually. That means twice per year. They're going to take the interest and put it back on the principal. And it says T equals 4 years. So with compound interest, we can't directly find the interest. First, we have to find the future value using the complicated compound interest equation. So we'll plug in our values. So I plugged those in, and I'll get a future value of 18,395. My calculator says 0.808, so I round that to 2 decimal places, 0.81 dirhams. That's the future amount, but now we have enough information to find the interest that you have to pay. It's the future amount minus the amount you started with. So we plug in those two numbers, 18,395.81 minus 13,900, and we will get the interest amount of 4,495.81 dirhams. Okay, let's look at this question. The amount of 55,000 is invested. So P, the starting amount, the principal, is 55,000. And it says the interest is compounded monthly. That would mean M equals 12. And in 4 years, so T equals 4 years, the money accumulated to that amount. That's our future amount, S, 59,131.04. Find the compound interest. So find I, that the money earned. Now, if you'll notice, they did not give us an interest rate. So let's think about an equation with I and any of these. Let's do S and P. We know that I equals S, the future amount, minus P, the present value. So actually, we don't need the M or the T or the R in this case. So we just plug in the numbers we have. 59,131.04 minus 55,000, and we will get the interest that we earned is 4,131.04 dirhams. Okay, let's look at this last question. Hamad wants to purchase a property. So he's going to invest some money for 8 years. So time equals 8. The interest rate is 6%, 0.06. Compounded quarterly, M equals 4. He wants to have 970,000. That means the future value. He doesn't have it now, but he wants to have this much in the future. Use the compound formula to find out how much he should invest now. So we don't know the present value, how much he should put in the bank right now. The compound interest formula says S equals P, 1 plus R over M raised to the power MT. But in this case, we were given the S and we want to find P. So it would be better if we could rearrange this formula, and instead of having S equals, we'll have P equals. We'll have S divided by this whole fraction, or this whole expression with ugly terms. Okay, so if you're given this equation, you should be able to use your algebra and turn it around and solve for P. That being the case, we will use this equation. the future value divided by 1 plus r over m to the mt would give us the initial amount deposited at the present value. So we'll plug in these numbers, 970,000 divided by 1 plus 0.06 over 4 raised to the power 4 times 8, and we will get our P equals 602,363.13 dirhams. So what is this saying? If Hamad wants this amount of money in 8 years under all of these conditions, then right now he should deposit 602,363.13, and after 8 years he'll get the future value that he wants. Okay, good luck everyone.